HP's Pavilion Plus series is kind of like the laptop where you want a premium laptop but aren't quite ready to dish out the premium pricing. It's costly compared to the Pavilion, but still considerably cheaper than the likes of the Envy or even the Spectre series. Now, with that said, we have the latest iteration of this laptop, and this bad boy here is rocking Intel's 13th generation 1340p series i5 processor with Evo certification. Additionally, we do have a slightly dated 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory. We also get a colossal 1 terabyte SSD, or relatively colossal anyway, and then past that we do have Intel's integrated Iris Xe graphics. Now we also get Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3 standards, which is nice to see, and finally this is a 14-inch laptop. Like all our laptop reviews, we're gonna go into the deep details, not from a technical perspective but from an end user perspective to see what you can expect were you to buy this laptop right now from A to Z. So let's get started. Look, unless you spend like $2,000 or more than that, HP doesn't bother making any sort of creative packaging, which means you get a generic looking cardboard box. In fact, I'm going to entirely skip the unboxing experience because there's nothing to see, honestly. Instead, I'll just tell you, you get the laptop itself. You also get a 65-watt charging adapter, though it is USB-C front end, which is very nice. And then, of course, you have the charging cable piece and the warranty regulation and other documents and details. Given the fact that this is essentially a glorified HP Pavilion, it retains the form factor, and that isn't an insult in any way or form. I actually like the form factor here. So HP kind of has a more linear design. It's not over the top, it's not excessively assertive. It's great for casual and professional environments alike. Additionally, I really like the natural silver color, and it's really nice because 2/3 of the laptop does have a metallic exterior, so you get a semi-premium feel, and honestly, it's really well built. It feels like a sturdy device. Now, with that said, it does have a weight of about 3.10 pounds, which isn't too shabby for a 14-inch laptop, so it should be good enough for day-to-day carry. Starting with the top side, like I mentioned here, you have a clean flat surface, no unnecessary textures. It's a metallic exterior. It feels nice and premium, and I love the new HP branding that they've brought over from the Envy series. All the ports are located on either side of this laptop. So on one side you have a headphone jack, a USB-A super speed port, and then for whatever reason HP decided to include a micro SD card reader slot. Honestly, a full-size one would have been so much better for maximum compatibility. Nonetheless, on the other side, you have one more USB-A super speed port. You also have a fully loaded HDMI 2.1 port, one Thunderbolt 4 port since this is Evo certified, and then you have one more Type-C port which has power delivery and DisplayPort functionality. All things considered, I would say the Pavilion Plus comes with a fully loaded set of ports, and I really don't have any complaints there. The bottom of this laptop is not its most seducing feature, but that's totally fine because it's really practical. So you do have a removable plastic lid over here. You'll also notice you have a nice and large air intake vent, which is good news. The bad news is that it's in dead center, so you cannot use this thing on your laps unless you want serious thermal problems. You'll also notice you do have two speaker grills, one on either corner, proving that this is in fact a bottom firing speaker setup. Unfolding this laptop presents you with a beautiful inner chassis. That clean metallic surface combined with the natural silver color just are like a chef's kiss. Now, with that said, of course, you'll notice you have a decent amount of palm rest space here. Additionally, at the lower center, you have a generously large trackpad with a lot of surf real estate. Now, unfortunately, it is a plastic surface finish. It should have been glass at this price point, but nonetheless, the flex is fairly limited, and it is a pretty tactile trackpad. Honestly, I would rate it somewhere between good and great in terms of the quality of the trackpad. The keyboard isn't bad either, so you have typical large square keycaps that you find on a lot of HP laptops. I do find that they are not as well labeled because of thinner fonts, but that's a personal preference. Also, you will notice the keyboard is fully backlit with multiple brightness settings. Additionally, since this is a 14-inch laptop, there is no 10 keypad, which is totally fair game. And you'll also notice directly beneath the arrow keys is where you have a built-in fingerprint scanner. Now, in terms of the typing quality, I think it's improved compared to previous generations, so you'll notice that it's a lot less finicky, and additionally you have a decent amount of key travel and tactility, which gives this keyboard a nice typing feel. It's not bad at all. Enjoying this video? Do me a solid, guys, and please consider subscribing to this channel. Not only does it allow me to afford some bread in the house, but it also shows your appreciation for the work we do here and keeps me motivated to produce more content just like this. Let's keep going. Right past the keyboard, beneath the hinge is where you have the primary heat exhaust vents. Above that, the hinge itself. And as far as the hinge quality goes, it's not bad. I mean, there is a little bit of wobble, but it's definitely more sturdy than previous Pavilion laptops we've seen. I wouldn't call it anywhere near as good as the likes of the MacBook, for example, but it'll do as long as you don't use it like an absolute animal. Now, as far as the screen to body ratio goes, you're sitting about 87%, and that's because you do have a somewhat noticeable fat chin at the bottom. And then you'll also notice that the bezels, while narrow, aren't necessarily the thinnest in the market. And then at the top, again, you kind of have a semi-fat forehead, so the bezels are quite notable. The good news is that you have a nice high quality 5 megapixel at the center there, and honestly the quality here is pretty good, so it does really well across various lighting settings, and it's pretty sharp and crisp. One of the biggest benefits of getting the Plus series versus the standard Pavilion is the display quality. So we get a high-res 2.2K display here, which means we also get a great 16:10 aspect ratio. Unfortunately, we're still capped at 60Hz refresh rate, which is a bit of a shame, though it is worth noting you have a really crisp IPS panel here with great viewing angles. You also get a built-in low blue light filter and an anti-glare coating as well, which is very much necessary because you only have a peak brightness of just 300 nits, which means in direct or indirect sunlight, this screen can struggle to stay bright enough sometimes. Now, you do have a 100% sRGB rating, which means for most day-to-day color-sensitive activities like photo or video editing, this laptop display is more than sufficient. In terms of performance, let's take a quick recap. We've got Intel's i5 1240p series processor, 16GB of DDR4 memory, and of course Intel's integrated Iris Xe graphics. This basically means day-to-day activities like surfing the web, doing word processing, or crunching numbers on Excel are very much a no-brainer for this machine. More demanding activities like programming on Python, for example, or doing some 3D Studio level animations are entirely possible on this laptop, and to my surprise, they actually run very smoothly without any hiccups. Even the most demanding of activities like multi-layer 4K video editing on DaVinci Resolve are entirely possible. That P-series processor does not disappoint. You will get occasional frame drops because you are pushing the laptop a fair bit, but it's a very viable workflow. Now, what I find even more impressive is gaming. Games like Fortnite are now able to run on medium settings at a consistent 60 plus FPS. Intel's integrated Iris Xe graphics have come a long way, and honestly, it's just impressive how good integrated graphics are able to perform nowadays. Thermals took me by surprise in a great way, so under unrealistic peak loads, you can hit a maximum average surface temperature of around 41 degrees Celsius, though that's not too bad, and the best part is under more realistic sustained loads, you'll hit around 36 degrees, which is a very reasonable number and totally fair. Fan noise isn't too bad either. Granted, you only have a single fan setup, but nonetheless, under peak loads, you'll hit around 51 decibels of maximum noise levels, but that's only when you're really pushing this laptop. Other than that, it's a fairly quiet machine. Of course, there had to be some sort of obvious flaw with this laptop, and that comes in the form of upgradability because the RAM on here is soldered and entirely on board, meaning you cannot upgrade that 16GB any higher, which really is a shame. Thankfully though, the PCIe NVMe slot means you can upgrade the M.2 drive on here. It is a preoccupied slot, but it's still nice to know you have that option. HP got a little excited and claimed you can get up to 10 hours on a single battery charge. That's just not the case. Based on our light load test, you'll get around 8 hours on that 51 watt hour battery. As far as the speaker quality goes, it's actually pretty decent, definitely better than the base Pavilion. It is in Bang & Olufsen bottom firing speaker setup, so you'll find that's definitely loud enough and there's very little distortion even at high volume levels. Here's a quick sound test, and please don't ask me why I'm not using Drake's latest album or Kanye's latest album. I have to use copyright-free music, guys, so just putting it out there.
Let's go. I got big dreams, I'ma do big things. Yeah, you see me on the big screen looking so clean. I don't move slow, I move fast right past anybody taking life for granted. Yeah, that's too bad. I be grateful for everything that I have. You only got this life, you don't get it back. Make the most of it, become the best that I can. Everybody look at me, I got a plan. You gotta work hard, play.
In the land of the eagle, this laptop will yield you around $1,000 US. Though to be fair, I've seen it go on dramatic sales as much as $300 off its asking price, which honestly is a pretty killer deal if you can find it. Now, with that said, there's really not a lot to not like about this laptop. That was the most redundant, whatever. The point is that, I mean, you've got good build quality, you've got decent hardware, you've got a P-series processor, 16 gigabytes of memory, a very high quality display. The overall build quality, like I mentioned, is good, so you've got a good trackpad and keyboard, and also a decent selection of I/O ports, except for that super micro SD card reader slot, which should have been a full-size one. But anyway, the only crime this laptop commits is having non-upgradable memory, but if you're willing to look past that, I really think the HP Pavilion Plus 14 is a great power productivity machine. It's very versatile, it can perform all sorts of tasks, and don't underestimate that i5 processor. It really is able to achieve most tasks that you throw at it. Overall, if you have the budget, and if you're looking for a upper mid-range laptop, this is definitely a great recommendation. As always, guys, let me know what you think of this laptop, and if you enjoyed the content, please consider subscribing to this channel and liking this video. It genuinely helps me more than you'll ever know.